Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with you for two reasons. First reason is that we have Dr. Leonie Mattison with us. But the second reason, which is the first, is that today, 5 years ago, we started Psychosocial Wednesdays. And actually, we started it with Susan Rowland, who is in the audience tonight. So I'm very happy she accepted this. So is a celebration, and is a celebration to have with us Dr. Lee, who is affectionately known as Dr. Lee, is an organizational development practitioner, the creator of Thread framework, but especially the new president and CEO of Pacifica Graduate Institute. A career uniquely blends ancient wisdom with contemporary technology to foster healing in marginalized groups. Recognized as one of the top 50 women in business by the Pacific Coast Business Times in 2023, Dr. Lee is committed to enhancing student success, promoting community service, and advancing educational equity. Beyond her professional accolades, she is a dedicated mother. I think you have 3 daughters like me, grandmother, mentor for women in leadership, and advocate for trauma healing, aspiring to a world where trauma survivors find liberation through conscious soul and healing. A part of this, she's a fantastic graphic designer because she's the one that, thanks to AI, designed the picture for tonight, this beautiful picture with threads and networks. So she will talk to us about depth psychology at the threshold, integrating ancient wisdom and modern technology in a post-human age. Dr. Lee, the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Stefano. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic.
Wonderful. It's good to see everyone. I'm seeing some of our faculty. Peter, it's great to see you. I saw you briefly, Susan, and I see a lot of our leadership team members here and some unfamiliar faces, I guess, which is part of your world, Stefano. So thank you for inviting me into this space. I truly appreciate it. So as I shared earlier, I will not be doing a presentation. I'd like to have a conversation. I have a lot to say. How much time do I have? Please tell me how much time I have, because I can go for 2-3 hours.
We have 45 minutes up to 1 hour, then Q&A. But if you need more time, we are happy to hear.
All right, wonderful. Well, building on the discussions from the 2023 Global Summit, if you recall, that was where we first met. And the summit last year, let me fix my screen here. The theme of that summit last year, which is offered through Pacifica Extension and International Studies Division here at Pacifica, was entitled, Will Jungian Psychology Survive the 21st Century? Our conversations at Pacifica have been dynamic and it's evolving. And while we have not yet finalized our direction around this topic, I will say that our commitment is to broaden this dialogue, involving a more extensive community engagement to ensure a comprehensive and inclusive approach. So I do want to preface it by starting out there. Now, while preparing for our time together today, I'm reminded of the timeless wisdom imparted by my grandmother. And she often said that time waits on no man. And her words echo powerfully in today's era, marked by both what I consider the promise and the perils of technology. And this sentiment resonates with Jung's cautionary observations on our tendency as human beings to look forward in time of crises, seeking visions of hope, and sometimes even salvation amidst chaos. And he warned of the historic, I'm going to quote from the Collective Works 10, where he says, historically, it is chiefly in times of physical, political, economic, and spiritual distress that people's eyes turn with anxious hope to the future. And when anticipations, utopias, right? And all of these visions, these multiple dynamics are what I consider weaving together. I was sharing with Dr. Nelson yesterday of how as you can hear from my accent, I am absolutely 100% a Black Jamaican woman. And I survived the 1988 Hurricane Gilbert, which was a devastating hurricane in Jamaica across the islands. And I remember our home, I remember as a little girl, I saw our home sailing down the street, being washed away. Our home was destroyed. Many years later, when I immigrated to the US, I survived the 9/11. Then I moved to California and experienced the 2017-2018 Thomas Fire. Now, I decided to make California my home. We all experienced the COVID-19 pandemic. We are, again, Jung says, are living in an age that is filled with these images of universal destruction. And we have no reason to take this lightly. We have to pay attention. And so Jung's words invite us to consider the impact of our current technological transformations, because it is part of all of these dynamics. And I feel this urge for us to balance our hopeful advancements with a mindful awareness of the potential consequences, right? Ensuring that we do not overlook the lessons of the past, nor the wisdom of those who have come before us. I wanted to also share with us, let me highlight a couple of dynamics that we're dealing with here, especially here in the US. I can't speak for the other parts of the world, but I'll share with you some of what's happening here in the US. We have an urgent mental health crisis here in the US, where the need for effective solutions is pressing. According to data from the Kaiser Family Foundation, in 2022, 47% of the US population lived in areas with a shortage of mental health professionals. Right here in California, about 1.2 million adults have a serious mental illness. And we all know there's a difference between mental health, mental illness, and mental well-being. 46% of adults reported symptoms of anxiety or depression, and 21.9% reported being unable to access counseling or therapy. This shortage is driven by various factors. One, it includes the inadequate funding allocated towards mental health and well-being. Two, poor reimbursement here in the US, very poor reimbursement rates. Three, a low retention in the field. Four, there's an escalating demand for services. And we have limited access to care and also an aging workforce. So we're dealing with these dynamics. Now, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that 6% of growth in psychologist employment from 2022 to 2032, that we expect to see an increase in the number of psychologists, or in the field, they expect to see a growth. As president and CEO of Pacifica, I know many of you here are familiar with our history. we started out as a program dedicated to tending to the soul of our veterans who are coming home. And we remain an institution committed to tending soul in and of the world. Our students must be prepared to engage mindfully with technology, particularly AI. The very word AI was looking at those two words, artificial and intelligence, right? And in artificial, I see the word art. So I have all kinds of perspective around that. But I will say that our graduates competition includes other professionals who are proficient, already proficient in technology. So we're not competing against AI itself, right? Technology's role in perpetuating or alleviating collective traumas and societal disparities is significant, and it is one that we can't ignore. We must consider how digital platforms can amplify issues like inequality and mental health crises, or provide new avenues for healing and resolutions. Now, this exploration is crucial to understanding the broader implications of technology and the technological integration into our societal fabric. We have found ourselves in an era where rapid technological changes are both exhilarating and it's also daunting. Amidst the digital transformation, artificial intelligence threatens to redefine human existence and the very fabric of who we are. Our duty and privilege, and I see it as both a duty and a privilege, is to critically assess how technology can serve as a conduit for soul expression, disrupt our archetypal roots, and support or even undermine the individuation process that Jung meticulously outlined. I've looked at several research around both the pros and the cons when it comes to technology, specifically AI. And I'll say this empirical research by Margaret H. Hoey highlights that digital technology has great potential for mental health assessment and treatment, as well as enhancing personal mental performance. Now, to address these challenges, coupled with the data I just shared with you and the realities happening right here in California, as well as the broader US, Pacifica has committed to making depth psychology accessible to all. And how will we do that? We are looking at ways in which we can leverage technology as a transformative tool to meet our community's mental health needs. Our 2030 strategic plan, which is coined Onward Together, propels us to explore and shape the intersection of technology and depth psychology thoughtfully and purposefully. I'll share a couple initiatives that are already underway here at Pacifica. We last year launched the Pacifica Soul Promise Initiative. You can check it out on our website. We're in the process of reimagining our Extension and International Studies Division. And we have prioritized, as always, and we continue to prioritize how we support our students through holistic student services platforms, which are aimed to break down demographic and geographical barriers so that we can expand our reach and the reach of mental health education or resources and care effectively. And this is all for the sake of tending soul in and of the world. When we think about soul in and of the world and how we reach, especially those who are in the underserved communities, right? And those individuals in the underserved communities do have their own, a lot of their rituals and practices that we've employed for many years to tend soul in and of the world. But there's still more work to be done in terms of how we bring Pacifica into those communities. Now, Pacifica recognized that technology can both nourish and deplete the soul. We recognize that. We also recognize that appreciating the complexity of our interactions with technology, the meaningful way we derive information and or the meaningful way we learn from these interactions and their impact on our overall well-being. And our mission and dedication guides us in navigating these complexities, whether we are striving to explore more about how we integrate, technology, depth psychology really into technology, because I'm always putting depth psychology in front of technology because depth psychology is the primary focus here. And so at this point, I'm going to pause for a moment and invite you to think, just reflect on the nuanced impact of technology in your personal lives, considering both its enriching and also the challenging effects of technology. And here are a couple questions that I have for us to consider. I want us to ask ourselves, how have digital tools fostered a sense of belonging and connectedness in your life? In what ways has technology unlocked opportunities for learning and creative expression? When has digital engagement led to feelings of isolation or disconnectedness? How does constant connectivity impact your well-being and focus? And the questions I pose are part of a collective mission at Pacifica to explore this interplay between technology and the soul, as we continue to seek pathways that lead not to the diminishment, but to the amplification of the spirit at the heart of the humanness of who we are. And so we are taking a leading role in this intersection. And I will say this, we can't afford to wait and see what unfolds passively. We can't. Instead, we are proactively shaping the use and innovation, right? How we integrate depth psychology into technology it has to unfold over time. We're not there as yet. It's a proactive approach that honors the ongoing scholarship, whether it's at Pacifica or across the union communities, how we welcome new perspectives, and also scholarship that reflects our faculty's commitment to acknowledging the soul's immutable presence in the ever-changing world as technology continues to advance. Another thought I had as I was thinking about our conversation today is the dual nature of technology. And the image that comes to mind for me is Janus, the Roman god with two faces looking in opposite directions. Janus embodies the duality of technology in my perspective. And what I mean by that is, like Janus, technology presents us with two perspectives: a forward-looking view of innovation and progress, and this backward glance at the potential consequences and ethical considerations as we lean into and stay true to, and I love what Dr. Elizabeth Nelson and I discussed this yesterday. How do we hold the tension? Because that's what this is. There's a tension in the middle, and how do we hold this tension? And so just as Janus symbolizes the balance between the past, the passage of time, and the future, so must we, as a depth psychologically based community, navigate the balance between technological advancements and its impact on humanity's well-being, while we hold true to our depth psychological roots. Now, I'm going to move into a couple thoughts that I want to share with us before I hand over to Stefano. I wanted to share the two perspectives, the soul-nourishing side of technology and the soul-depleting side of technology from my perspective. In his recent publication, I'm not sure if he's here, Glenn Slater reflects on this transformative landscape. And he states in his book that, and the book is, I have it here. If you don't have it, please pick up a copy of it. Jung versus Bohr. And he says, one of the most significant challenges before us is thus, how to remain scientific without becoming scientistic and construing all problems as needing technical solutions. And this urges us to not reduce our, psychological explorations to mere technical fixes, but to maintain a rich tapestry of inquiry and understanding. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Elizabeth and I, Nelson, faculty here at Pacifica, Glenn is also a faculty member here at Pacifica, had a lengthy discussion yesterday around these two, the dual nature of technology. And I'll quote, I have her permission to use this quote because as we were talking, I was taking some notes. And this is also referenced in one of her, actually two. She has a webinar recording on YouTube, and she also has a podcast somewhere. Stefana might share that with you. But Dr. Elizabeth Nelson says that the technology conversation is polarized and polarizing. And our task is to avoid the extreme of technology. And the extremes are the fear of technology, the technophobia's view, and the enchantment, right, with and love of technology, which is a technophilia's view. And her recommendation is that the task before, she says, is, to again hold the tension of these opposites and enter the imagination, which is the middle ground. And this is where the deep ethics of examining our own shadow. This is where we pause and ask ourselves, how am I blaming technology for our psychological inclinations? How are we blaming technology? I also want to share a little bit about my background. So I grew up in rural Jamaica in a beautiful parish of St. Anne. That's where Bob Marley's from. And life was a blend of natives' nurturing touch and the communal challenges that we faced, whether it was trauma, the lack of water, the lack of access to affordable education. We faced those challenges on the island. But our daily routines were labor intensive. From carrying, I used to carry water on the top of my head, to scrubbing floors on my knees and hands, to washing everything by hand. Clothes was washed by hand. The dishes, we washed them by hand, right? However, as technology became part of our community, these tasks evolved. Water pumps, modern cooking appliances, and laundry machines lightened our physical burdens. And it also free the time we needed for, dedicated time for education, and also strengthening community bonds and enhancing leisure activities. Technology did that for us. I noted that. Now, one of the most impactful influences during these transformative years was my grandmother. I talk about my grandmother a lot. If you haven't read anything that I've published, please do. I talk about my grandmother and her lessons around quilt. I see life as a quilt. So that's another topic for another day. But one of the most impactful influences during this transformative period of my life was my grandmother. And we used to stitch quilts together. She imparted a lesson that became a metaphor for life for me. And challenges, she says, are like diverse fabric scraps, each with its piece, its place, and purpose in our life's grand design. Her wisdom taught me to weave resiliency, creativity, and challenges into a tapestry of strength and beauty. These lessons resonated with Jung's insight on how deeply our instincts and traditions shapes our experiences. I still remember who I am. I still remember those moments. So technology hasn't taken that away from me at all. Now, these formative experiences laid the foundation for my later encounter with depth psychology in Pacifica during a period of intense personal adversity. I experienced a near-death stroke in my 30s, and it left me paralyzed on the right side of my body. I could not walk, I could not talk, I could not use my arms. And I remembered as I journeyed through my healing, Pacifica, which for me is symbolic of this quilt, stitched together with therapy rooted in Jungian principles. And she emerged within me as a tapestry. That was where I began to, I went on my own numinous journey, and individuation was a big part of my life, a big word that I used to use back then, but it was a word that meant wholeness and growth. It wasn't just a word. It was coupled with the experience I had as I transitioned and transformed from my trauma to becoming my whole self. During one of our sessions in Pacifica Experience, I believe you were there, Stefano, where I shared of how technology, particularly my phone, played an essential role in my healing journey. It became a tool for communication. I used to record myself every morning on my phone. I would record myself. I couldn't speak, but I would record and I would listen. I would take picture of myself because at one point too, I had Bell's palsy, a disfiguration of the face. And I would take pictures of myself every step of the journey. And it was a canvas of self-expression and reflection. It captured the images of me becoming my whole self moment by moment. So this digital documentation of my recovery and transformation mirrored the quilting lesson of my grandmother, where each picture, a stitch in the quilt of my life, symbolizing this integration of fragmented aspects of my psyche. And it was through this process I realized the potent blend of technology and depth psychology, capturing this transformative power of both, right, in facilitating growth and self-discovery. I also want to share with you another soul nourishing side of technology, looking at from Pacifica's perspective. Pacifica's transition from traditional residential learning to online platforms during the pandemic demonstrated our commitment to tending soul in a rapidly evolving world. While not without its challenges, this shift showcased the Institute's adaptability and resiliency inherent in our people, depth psychology, right? And as we integrate our education, our research and services with the help of technology. Now, this process required Pacifica to rethink, learn, and embrace the possibilities for meaningful connections that define our fields and the Institute on a whole. And so our expanded program offerings, our global learning community, just all of you here are part of this community. We're actually accessing and we're relying on technology to connect us, so we're learning together. Technology does that for us. So our expanded programs at Pacifica, our global learning community, and our diverse faculty and staff reflects Pacifica's dedication to providing a holistic educational experience. And this commitment to inclusivity and innovation has been particularly highlighted. And I must say thank you to Dr. Cambry, who played the pivotal role in guiding Pacifica towards the forefront of deaf psychology and education and our research during the pandemic. Pacifica has always been a pioneer. We've always been a pioneer in nurturing the soul and exploring the depths of the human experience, and the dedication continues forward. Now, let me share the soul-depleting side of technology from my perspective. The soul-depleting side of technology becomes evident when we consider the digital interactions and how they can overshadow soul-nourishing experiences. And I forgot to share another soul-nourishing experience I had during the pandemic. I lost over a dozen family members and friends and colleagues during the pandemic. And platforms such as WhatsApp and Facebook really brought my presence into their present at the time when I saw family members being buried. I wasn't there, but technology helped me to connect to my family members from all over the world when we couldn't physically be present in Jamaica to say goodbye to our loved ones. But as I said, there's a soul depleting side of technology. The digital world often promotes a superficial validation that can detract from genuine interpersonal connections and intellectual engagement. And what I've noticed is that, you know, these platforms sometimes, especially these social media platforms, are unfortunately places where negative behaviors such as bullying, body shaming, hate speech, are amplified. It's like the platform becomes this anonymous or distant setting where individuals feel emboldened to act without accountability, leading to significant emotional distress and a dehumanizing disconnect amongst the users. So we know that side of technology. We also, the other side of technology, the soul depleting side of technology, is when technology is being used to foster a competitive environment that can lead to intellectual hubris rather than true wisdom. I see that every single day, or hear of it anyway. This is where technology is, or these platforms are used to promote an unreal, idealized version of life that is often far removed from reality. We hear of them, we see it. We turn our phones on or we turn the computer on, we see it. Also, another side is the political side, or this global affairs side, where technology can polarize communities and erode trust in institutions by manipulating public opinion and spreading misinformation. We call it fake news, right? We've seen that. And this manipulation feeds a cycle of what? Cynicism and disconnection from civic engagement, which is crucial for a healthy and soulful society. We've seen that as well. And so when we address these soul depleting aspects of technology, it requires conscious efforts to examine, to come from a place of curiosity, to be bold enough to step forward and again, expand our reach, to redesign, and even our scholarship, and taking the stance for a redesign of digital interactions that prioritizes human dignity, promote genuine connections, and foster an environment of respect and empathy. And so reflecting on this journey, I'm reminded again of this importance of conscious engagement with technology. Engagement that's informed by depth psychological insights into the psyche's depth. And that is missing from the innovation of technology. Or the depth psychological perspective is missing to some extent. And this is just from very few conversations I've had with some of these tech firms and these engineers. Depth psychology, it's not even nowhere near their mind's eyes. And so I want to share 3 or 4 things before I hand over to Stefan about what we're doing here, what we have done here at Pacifica Graduate Institute, what we're doing, and a vision for where we're going next. Now, what have we done? Programs. Dr. Elizabeth Nelson, a longstanding faculty member here at Pacifica, has been at the forefront of integrating depth psychology and technology. And for over 10 years, she has offered courses on technology, and one is titled Psyche, Soma, Cyborg, Mobile Technology, and the Posthuman. And this course examines a particular fantasy of the monstrous in the Western culture, the enhanced human or cyborg, or a creature that is manufactured, not born, the offspring of humanity's love affair with technology. So that course is offered here at Pacifica. Book chapters, I know Dr. Susan Rowland was here. So both Elizabeth and Susan showcased Pacifica's expertise in the intersection of feminism and technology at the 2020 Feminism in Technology Conference. And they've both co-authored a forthcoming book extending our reach and influence in critical areas. Publications, as I mentioned earlier, Glenn Slater's publication on Jung versus Borg, finding the deeply human in a post-human age. If you haven't picked up a copy, I encourage you to do so. Now, what are we doing? I also made mention of Pacifica's Soul Promise, which embodies Pacifica's dedication to making depth psychology accessible to everyone, not only the few. And this initiative is built on 5 pillars. 1, student scholarships. 2, faculty development. 3, academic innovation. 4, campus improvements. And 5, research innovations. We're also here at Pacifica, we have a program that is dedicated to connecting our students to our alums. And that is through what's called a buddy program. And it has been at Pacifica for over 12 years, where the alums serve as mentors to our existing students. And now we're getting ready to, is going into another iteration of that manual platform to become more digitized. We were recently approved for a psychology, religion, and consciousness, our very first fully online degree. That's happening here at Pacifica. Okay, the Pacifica Extension and International Studies, where all our community, the global community of learners gather. And it is through online platforms and strategic global partnerships that we're able to offer the diverse learning opportunities through Pacifica Extension. Now, as we look ahead, I will quote, something I read from Joshua Hochschild that gave me a pause a couple weeks ago. And he says that our brightest engineers have trained our most powerful technology to act with psychological craftness of demons. Neuroscience helps us to understand how digital media is changing us. Still, we need a more classical language about the soul to understand and protect ourselves from the most ominous changes. So looking ahead, Pacifica will continue to leverage our existing online platforms and strategic alliances to expand global access to our depth psychological education or research and our resources. We will continue to redefine and refine our hybrid educational models that combine the best of our traditional and digital learning to prepare our students for the evolving, the ever-changing environment of psychology. We will continue to explore how technology is changing our understanding of ourselves, our sense of self-awareness, our interior life, and our very, experience of agency. And I will say that we will remain committed to reaching the marginalized communities and integrate as much as we can these holistic tools from a holistic perspective to improve health outcomes through the help of technology. This is no time to lose heart. We were made for these times, where the impact of technology on our souls is a central concern. In exploring when, where, and how technology nourishes or starves the soul, we must navigate a landscape filled with daily astonishment, coming from that place of curiosity, right? Versus a justified anger or fear at what we anticipate is up ahead in front of us. I believe that it is in these times of uproar and of evil, that the spirit of the depths guides us to consider our actions and our decisions through the lens of our dreams. I still believe in dreams and the mysteries in their language. We all know on this platform that dreams pave the way of our lives and influence us in ways we may not fully comprehend. Pacifica exists to serve our students, we serve our students need their mission. They come to Pacifica because they believe in our mission and believe that we can help them to not only unlock their potential, but help to launch them into their vocation. We exist to support our faculty and our staff. We exist to meet the needs of our community and the ever-changing needs of our global community, not only the communities here in Santa Barbara County or California. But as we do so, scholarly knowledge has its place. There's a deeper insight into the heart that cannot be found in books or from any teacher's lips. And this wisdom emerges from within, and we know that, right? It's like this green seed sprouting from the darkness of the earth. We need more deaf psychologists. We need more Pacifica in the world. And as C.G. Jung eloquently expressed in the Red Book, scholarly pursuits are essential to our time, but they alone cannot grasp the profound wisdom contained in our dreams. Technology is good, but technology alone is not enough to address the crises, the global crisis, the mental health crisis, this polycrisis, as Laura Lee Scott made mention and reminded me, where it's a polycrisis. It's a famine for soul. Technology alone is not enough to tend to the soul of the world, but I think it can be a partner to some extent. And so in parallel, the intersection of deaf psychology and technology is important. And I believe that we must explore how technology can nourish or starve the soul in its various forms and applications. And this exploration, I believe, calls for a deep understanding of how technology impacts our inner lives, shape our thoughts and emotions, and even our relationships. And on that note, Stefano, I am going to pause there and hand over to you, and I invite in any questions and or comments from your global audience and the learners here today. But That's all I'd like to share for now. I have more, but I'm looking at my time and I can't believe I told you I can talk for 2 or 3 hours. You think I was joking. But I'm going to pause there for a moment, because if I don't pause, I probably start singing a song or something. But I welcome any questions. And you see, they're laughing because my people know I will sing. They know I will
Why not? Why not? I mean,
I'm
why
just curious
not?
I'm just curious what song you would sing us.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None of them can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy. That's what he was saying. Have no fear for technology, because none of them can stop the times. Won't you help me sing? Another song of freedom is all I ever heard. Redemption song. Y'all could unmute yourself and help me sing it. You know, you're like, I'm doing it on my own. You know, y'all could help me sing.
Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear of atomic energy, because none of them can stop this time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look?
Some say it's just a part of it.
We got to fulfill the book. Now, won't you help sing this song of freedom?
It's all I ever had. Redemption songs.
Thank you.
Redemption songs. Okay, so you go, Peter.
You know,
I'll send you the invoice.
I think if the international Jungian community sang together, in addition to our scholarship, we would change the world.
And here we go with Peter again, going his way, political way. We will never change you, Peter.
No,
right?
no, I'm too old for that.
I would like to open the floor now to our audience. Dr. Lee, thank you so much for your vision, for your singing. But Peter, you're right. We need more singing, right? We meet very often electronically, in person. And I don't know if you know these, perhaps Laura Lee told you, but a couple of years ago at the European conference in Berlin, the IAP conference, I wrote and presented a paper titled The Agenda 2050 for Analytical Psychology. Why 2050? Well, because I'm 45, Peter, you know this, right? And basically in 25 years, my generation will be there where our ancestors are, our governors, our committees are. So what is the task of my generation? Those that are training now, that just train between 40 and 50, because we are the young analysts, right? Between 40 and 50. So is
You better be
interesting.
careful how you say that right now, because I don't know. I don't know about that. My mama will tell you she's young. So, you know, just careful how you say that now, Stefano. Don't get me in trouble now.
No, I don't want you to get in trouble, because I'm very good to get myself in trouble very often, right, Peter? Help me out.
Stefano, there are several things you're excellent at, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, go back to Hillman, from wound to scar. What I was to say, what Pacifica organized, will analytical psychology survive the 21st century? That, if you remember, was also one of your first global appearances when Laura Lee and I organized this global summit to present another training online. But then I want to link it to what analytical psychology, analysis and activism organized in early September, a conference in Ljubljana titled, Do We Really Have the Answer? And this links to what you said. Do we Jungians really have the answer? And if so, how? Why? the answer for me is yes, and that's why I'm doing all these with the amazing team of people that help me to do these, plus the books, plus the activism. But I truly believe that depth psychology, and especially Jungian analysis, post-Jungian, neo-Jungian, as I like to call my generation, have an answer to Laura Lee, the polycrisis, and to better understand what is happening right now from a psychosocial point of view. So do you think we really have the answer?
I'll let the audience respond before I share my perspective on it, in addition to what I've already shared. So I'm going to ask, what are our thoughts?
You have to remember, you and I are extroverted. Peter is more or less, but Jungians are not. So
You know,
you know what?
as a deep and committed introvert, I will step in to represent us introverts briefly, and then I will go back to hiding out.
bravo.
We definitely have an answer, and we have many answers, and we can even integrate them into one another and become the antidote to the problems of our time.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for that. Susan.
No, we don't have the answer.
Tell me more.
Peter, typical Susan.
Tell me more, Susan. Why do you say that?
Because I'm not sure that answer is the right approach, and there isn't one answer. And it may be that the problems of our time are not answerable, but that doesn't mean they can't be responded to. But it would be wrong to think that any one group, because the term Jungian has been mentioned, so we are defining ourselves as one group, it would be wrong to think any one group has the answer. I think we have very good responses, and part of our responses is that we should, you analysts should, have the ability to listen.
Thank you for sharing that. It goes back to the quilt, right? Having different patches. So it isn't any one color or design, right? Or fabric pieces. I think what I'm sensing is there are multiple responses, right? But I think if we stay in if we take the introverted position and not share out what we think a potential solution could be, that's what I'm fearful of. And I don't like to project my fear on anyone, but that concerns me. If we're not speaking of what Elizabeth and I discussed yesterday is how can we pull all of our resources together, right? So we're talking about the integration of, depth psychology, Jungian psychology, and technology. My question to us is, what have you done? Is there a paper? Is there a podcast that you recorded? Are there webinars? Are there books? How can we compile or design a toolkit? And I don't like the word toolkit because it assumes that people are broken, but how can we design a resource or resources and make it available to everybody?
Yeah. As a
Can I share
as a
something?
toolbox.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just
GH, yeah. Sorry,
I'm
GJ,
out of
yeah.
Pacifica, but just thank you, Dr. Lee, for your sharing. And I am a student at Pacifica, and I love these psychological Wednesdays. But I did, as you're asking about the answer, and I have only a few quotes up here on my board, but this one I keep with me all the time, and it might be applicable. It's from Rainer Maria Rilke, right? She says, be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything, live the questions. And I think we're living the questions that are coming out of technology and depth psychology toward it. I know for myself, just trying to even name, again, like you were speaking of the love, the hate, the my words, but just the pros and cons of technology, right? In so many ways, I'm feeling I'm experiencing it, and I don't even know yet what I need to ask. There are days where I feel like I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And then I look in front of me and I'm connecting with y'all because I have an Apple ecology right in front of me, this universe of Apple products right here. And then on any given day, I feel like I've been sucked into the technology world, right? So this quote just helps me in so many ways, and particularly in this conversation, I feel like I'm swimming around. I have dreams that let me know, like, yeah, I'm engaging with this yet. So I have not yet come up with the question. I'm still trying to unravel all the things from colonialism. I'm still trying to unravel all the things from my family. I hear you talk about your grandmother. I'm like, oh, I'm so envious. I don't have those stories, but I have other stories of community. I grew up in the community where Pacifica came out of, that very little town in Isla Vista. That is a gift. And yet we talk about this quantum leap we've taken, which is technology, which I think has been evolving along the way. And I think we're meeting at this nice this precipice, right? This point, this juncture. And so this quote's good for me because I just want to live the question now. And then hopefully the words are ready when the time comes where we've made tangible the questions and really desire and need the answers. That's it. And thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Other thoughts before I respond? Yes.
Yeah, I have a quick question. There's a lot of buzz out there that AI is already conscious. So it's already sentient. So it has feelings, it has the ability to react. And I think this is where a lot of the fear is coming from, that it's going to be on equal playing field as the human species. What do you think? What is the depth psychological approach to that? Perhaps truth.
The truth. I'm going to ask again, Peter, Laura Lee, and Susan to respond to that before I respond. And by the way, I don't agree with that. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have emotions. My perspective is that what we put into AI is what AI mirrors or feeds back to us. So sorry, our soul is not, I mean, if you look at this from a soul-based perspective, and Elizabeth and I talked about this yesterday, how could we even compare ourselves to AI? To me, that's giving away our humanness. It's not a human being. It will never be a human being. Never. Like, I enjoy this dialogue, but when you're in the room, oh, it's a different energy. That's a feeling, right? This is nice. I love this. The tapestry on my screen is beautiful. But Stefana, when you get to Pacifica and you meet me, you probably will leave like on this high. I have so much energy.
I feel it. I feel it.
I have so much. I want to give it all away. You can feel it to some extent because there is AI cannot bring you my feelings. I can't. So I'm going to ask Peter and Laura Lee and Susan to respond to that question for me, please. What are your thoughts?
I think we need to rebuild an experience of belonging using depth psychology as the fundament of every institution and every community.
Yeah. Thank you.
We first, right? We build, and then how do we ensure that others have access to our engagement, or others know how do we ensure that others can mirror this experience? Because I'll share it with you, Peter. My concern is that we do a lot, we tend a lot to this community. We tend to ourselves a lot, and I love that. But I think there comes a point where I guess we have to ask ourselves a question of, okay, if I'm tending, am I flow as much as I tend in, am I flowing out, right? It's what's been nurtured and tended. Is there an outflow, right? Because we can't, if we continue, we become stagnant, right? But when it's flowing through us, then so that's just one perspective on what you just said. I think it is appropriate that we do so, but I want to caution us to continue to explore and to examine whether or not we're flowing out of us as much as we continue to tend in.
I have a question for you, Dr. Lee. Sorry if someone else wanted to step in, but Pacifica is with the Carl Gustav Jung Institute in Zurich and Essex University, one of the three best places, I would say, that actually students dream of, right? Essex is very British. The Carl Gustav Jung Institute is very Swiss, but as perhaps the most global training, the international training, because people from all over the world, if they can pay the fee, can go to Zurich. Mm-hmm. What is your vision for Pacifica? You said it, but I think it's very important to really look into the fact that Pacifica can truly, because it is an American institution, so extroverted, it is a place where knowledge can reach people around the world in a way that is new. In fact, you're looking at Pacifica Extension International Program is really wise and a novelty in the Jungian world, because I've experienced in the past few years that people are thirsty for Jungian thoughts, but there is a difficulty to bring contents around, to put it bluntly. Yeah. And this Psychosocial Wednesday happened because of the pandemic, because we had technology, and because my friends and colleague Paul and Bernard had the idea to get together and talk about Jungian themes. Mm-hmm. And look what happened, a global community that is meeting every month. So in that, to go back to that paper I wrote for the European IAAP conference, I also said we Jungians should try to become, especially the analyst, not the scholars, but the analyst should try to be a bit more extroverted and try to go out, even try to advertise ourselves, not to sell our product only, but to share our knowledge, write for newspapers, join talk shows, join podcasts. And there are many people like me that do this since 5-10 years and are helping analytical psychology to reach a wider, broader audience that otherwise would never reach us. And this level of teachings, I would say. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So thank you for what you're doing so extrovertedly. But then you have Peter, who is slowing down the process.
Well, again, thank you for the commendation. I have to say, on screen we have staff and Laura Lee, Dr. Lorraine Divas-Combi, our interim provost. We have HR is actually here with us today, and we have Bahar here. So it's a team effort as we are consumers of a lot of feedback, Stefano, a lot of feedback, a lot of dedicated time, showing up with a lot of curiosity, listening, learning, and respecting where people are. Because some folks, as you rightly mentioned, are so ripe and ready to go out and reach a much broader audience. And I've been encouraging everybody, please connect with Laura Lee if you've got something to share. Connect with Laura Lee. I'm sure she's probably not happy with me saying and doing that, but there is room. There's a willingness, a readiness, because we know of what's happening across the globe. We're hearing it. We receive emails, voicemails when I'm in the community. So I think some of it is, yes, I think technology plays a role in how we make that psychology, Jungian psychology, accessible to all people, whether it's the education, the research, and services and resources as well. And then you have the on-the-ground work, right? I'm more on the ground in Santa Barbara County, or the central coast of California. So I'm on a weekly basis, maybe 3 to 4 times of the week, I'm in the community, engaging with members of the community and I'm sharing of Pacifica, who we are, and really learning who they are and how we might forge or expand our partnerships. So I think, going back to the question that you asked earlier, I think as the questions unfold themselves, and I think as we lean in to listen more closely, I think the extrovert, in all of us, there's an extrovert. I'll tell you something, when I'm home, you will not believe me when I say this. At home, I am an introvert. I know you're going, I know, at home, my kids are always asking, are you okay?
But actually, it's true. Huh? It's like a cage where actually, I hide with my books, my podcast, with my silence.
Yes, I have my dog. I have a terrier, and we cuddle, and I hide away in my office. Sometimes I'm under the table hiding from my kids. I just want to cuddle.
Okay, I don't do that. I don't do that. But I go to my garden house in the middle of nowhere with a World War II bunker next to it, so it's really safe. I have to interrupt you 1 second, because we have Sharon who has her hand, and so Sharon, the floor is yours.
Stefano, I want to speak to what you was talking about, bringing more of depth psychology out into the world. That has been I'm an introvert, but I always think of Oprah, that calls herself an introvert, but always out there. So I think I'm that type of personality. I can be out there, but I like my solitude. But I am learning so much. This is my 3rd quarter in the depth psychology program.
Oh.
Yes. And I'm learning so much, and I wonder to myself, how do people who don't have this information move through the world? Because there's so much healing happening within my own psyche, my body, life. And one of the things I would like to do, I heard you said something, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. The podcast, the writing, talking, but I'm from Trinidad. So somehow my heart is in Trinidad, in the sense of bringing all this great stuff that I'm learning and seeing the expansion and growth in my own self and taking that to Trinidad. And when I heard you talk about podcasts and newspapers and talk show, I'm like, I know I can do that. So thank you for mentioning that. And I heard Dr. Lee talked about Laura Lee. It's Laura.
Laura Lee. It's Laura Lee right here with her hand like this. That's Laura Lee. She's on screen. She's at the very bottom. Where is she? There she is.
Okay. So it seems like Laura Lee has some experience in that field. So if I can speak to either Stefano or Laura Lee and see how I can start sharing this information that I'm learning, how I can bring that out, starting with Trinidad. Well, starting with me, my immediate family, and Trinidad.
That's wonderful. And that's the power of transformation and the power of Pacifica's education, by the way. I'm putting a shameless plug out there. But you're absolutely correct. Where did she go, Sharon? That's the outflow. That's the flowing. That's what I was trying to describe earlier of, it's given to us, right? We receive, and the ability to flow out of us, then it leaves room for more to come inside of us. So well, let me tell you something, honey. I have not gone back to Jamaica with mine as yet. So I feel convicted today. I will admit to that. I feel convicted. However, I think it's because I've done so much writing and have gone home and share of my, healing journey through depth psychology already. And with this huge job that I have now, I don't have the capacity for more. So I support you there. And yes, Laura Lee, I'm not sure what you'd like to add to that, but I say congratulations for the healing that will take place through your acts of service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Laura Lee, you wanted to respond?
Sharon, I would love to talk with you. I've really enjoyed meeting you, even though you're at Pacifica. So, you know, here's to the power of technology, Sharon. You and I are meeting for the first time via technology. So, I love hearing your enthusiasm, and it's coming from the soul. You know, you're discovering what it means to be rooted in the spirit of the depths, and I think that is a challenge for all of us. And I'm grateful to Stefano. For the opportunity to get to know him, for the work that he continues to do. People like that are on the Pacifica faculty that are on this session, Peter and Susan and Dr. Lorraine. I mean, so many. There's a commonality of purpose here that unites us in this community. And I think for me, part of, you know, what I see as part of the main part of Pacifica Extension, the challenge that inspires me every morning when I get up, is how can I bring soul into these online communities? How can I create the kind of community online so we can go to all different parts of the world, but do it in a way that's not just talking heads talking at each other. You can be in the room with someone giving a presentation and it can be every bit as soulless as being online. Technology is a tool that we carry. We are the carriers of soul. And the degree to which we are in touch with our own soul, and we've done the hard work first. You know, Jung, I'm reminded of this every day as well. Jung said, the soul demands your folly, not your wisdom. That's in the Red Book. The soul demands your folly, not your wisdom. And I think, you know, when I meet someone with soul, I meet someone who's very cognizant of the fact that we mess up, all of us. And it's not about hubristically saying we have the answers, we have all the answers. It's about understanding there's something that unites all of us at a very deep level that Jung in particular articulated in an amazing way. And so part of and that's what I value Pacifica for, because that is part of our held ethos, is this connection to soul. But we talk about soul, but do we really stop and think what that means? And it means being in touch with those places within each of us, I think, where we've come through our own broken places. Dr. Lee has shared her story. Others of us have shared our stories. We're united and in an archetypal way at our very roots. And I think we have a world right now that is desperately hungry because they're recognizing simply talking at each other is not getting it done. And so I think, Sharon, people like you, people who are on this session, Stefano, the different ways in which we can all dial into our particular gifts. Susan, with an incredible author. Peter, there's the work of scholarship, but there's also the work of the arts and imagination. And how do we bring that into these communities? So I'll stop there, but thank you, Stefano and Dr. Lee, for the community you've created, and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of it with all of you.
Thank you. If I can add something, I think it's time
Thanks,
for
Laura Lee. Huh?
It's time for a joke, and this joke is for Laura Lee. Because you wake up in the morning asking, how many emails did Stefano send me overnight? With new proposal, another new proposal, the first ever Pacifica summer school in Trinidad and Tobago. What about that, Sharon?
You're
wonderful.
For those of you who don't know, I'm on the East Coast of the U.S. Stefano, well, at any given point in time, I'm not really sure where in the world he is, Berlin,
Europe,
wherever. But when I wake up at 4 a.m. and want to go to work, I know I can email Stefano because he's on the other side of the world. So, but I need to make sure I've had at least 2 cups of coffee because he will come back with about 1 million ideas. Yeah.
That's the beauty of the active imagination, creativity, I guess. Peter, were you wanting to share something? Chris, you had your mic unmuted before. I wasn't sure if you wanted to say something.
Just something very small. If Peter would like to go ahead.
Oh, I've been talking a lot.
Just very. I'm an introvert, but I teach and I also perform. And I do that by, rather than being out there, I try to invite people into my world. And as you grow your soul, you can't help but want to invite people into your world. So that was all I had to say to Sharon.
I love that. Yes. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Peter?
Oh, there is a Kathleen is here, and she leads a young study group that's meeting this Saturday.
Excuse me.
Yes. So I just thought I'd put a plug for that. There's lots of different things
That's right.
the community
Sorry,
does.
Peter. I didn't know that was for me, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Different
maybe-
Kathleen, Peter. No, yes, I
Yeah.
am. It is Saturday. Yep, 7:30 Pacific Standard Time in the morning.
What is it about?
We are reading The Undiscovered Self. You
Oh, I
started.
just finished reading it.
If you'd like to join us, I can send you a link if you'd like.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
For about an
Get,
hour.
get
and
ready
just
for a
go on
roller
the site.
coaster, though.
I love
Right?
the book. I read it in like, I'm always trying to compete with Laura Lee because she'll say, I read it in 4 hours. And I'm like, between emails?
Yeah.
No. So I
Yeah.
read the book one Saturday. So thank you. I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Is it
Thank you,
possible?
Peter. I'm sorry.
How do we get on your mailing list?
I'm gonna put my email address.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, there you go. You just unplug, you said one thing and here we go.
And it's the crossing of things, right? Psychosocial Wednesday, Pacifica, now analysis and activism. So are areas that are self-contaminating or enriching each other. Beautiful.
Pollinating.
Pollinating. Yeah, not contaminating.
I will say that, because I know that this recording will be shared globally. And I also need to go have something to eat because I am hungry. What I will say though is it feels so refreshing and soul filling, right? I feel Peter always said, we're onto something. I don't know what that something is, right, Peter? We're onto something. We're onto something. And I'm inviting the curious, the seekers, the pioneers, the history makers, and those who may not even know who you are as it, and that's okay. You belong at Pacifica. And when I say Pacifica, we are Pacifica. All of us here, we're Pacifica. And I know ever so often I hear someone share with me of a story where they thought, oh, I could never thought I could. I think this is a time for dreamers to wake up. Wake up. And wake up. And it's okay if it's you journal what you dreamt last night. And it's okay if you just feel emboldened to take a big step forward, right? The spirit of our times, I feel, is asking for the depth. And it is time for us to step forward. And I'll read again the very last section of what I shared earlier with more conviction and a call to action to join Pacifica on this journey, whether it's another webinar that, because now Stefan is part of us, right? I don't know which part of the birthing he's part of Pacifica now. We adopted him, he's part of the Pacifica. But what I'd like to share with us is that this is no time to lose heart. We're not hopeless people. We're not hopeless souls. We were made for these times. We were made, if it was not the intention of life for us to be here in this moment, we would not have been here. But we were made for these times. And whether it's you're a technophobe, whether you are a technophilia or a technocrat, I think all of the tech needs to just come together and let's have a tech converse talk. Because today was not a tech talk, by the way, right? But as we continue to explore what I'm coining as when, where, and how technology nourishes our stars, the soul, I just encourage us to continue to explore those questions with lots of curiosity and this flexibility to learning and growing and adapting to change. And you know what? When the fear emerges, Dr. Juliet Rody Brown taught me, she said, have a conversation with it. Ask, why are you here? Why did you show up? You know, what is it that you want to flow to me and through me? Okay. And in these times, the spirits of the depths guides us to consider our actions, our inactions, and even our decisions and indecisions. And we can do so through the lenses of our dreams. And I just want to encourage us, don't be shy. Again, I'm going to tag Laura Lee, or my chief of staff is here, Nick Sabatino. You belong at Pacifica. Don't be a stranger. Laura, the Pacifica Extension and International Studies Division, there's always a program, something happening over there. Check out that division. And if you're ready to embark on your degree, the degree side of the house, to complete a degree program, check us out as well. You belong at Pacifica, and we want to hear from this community. What are some of the work in progress? Or what have you done for alums? What is it that we need to know about your scholarship? Don't be shy. Share with us what you've done, what you're doing, and maybe your vision for where you're headed around this topic. We need to put together a comprehensive resource packet that we can share out with the rest of the world. And I need your help. I cannot do it alone. It's a global cry for these resources. And I'm asking the Jungian community, Pacifica community, staff, faculty, alums, you know, or leaders, the board of trustees. I'm calling all of us. We can do this. Let's build this comprehensive resource packet and share it out widely with the rest of the world. And I believe that out of us will flow the healing that the world, this dark world, is in dire need. We don't get to tell them what to use, and we don't get to tell them how to use it. But I think we can share out with the rest of the world and make the psychology accessible to all people. That's my ask of us. You belong at Pacifica. Join us in building this comprehensive resource packet for the world.
Thank you. So it's out there. So let's start working, right? The Agenda 2050 and maybe 2020 and 25 and 30. Good night, everyone. Enjoy your lunch, those over the ocean. Good night to those in Europe and everywhere else.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Good
You're
night.
welcome. Bye-bye.